Now let the beat ride.
Broadcasting live from the Cook County Jail, Aaron Dixon. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the sports edition of the High Chicago podcast. I'm joined today by three co-hosts in Sean, Josh, and Adam. Adam, you remember from our preview episode. How you doing today, Adam?
How's it going, guys?
Sean?
Yo, I'm solid. Adam, I want to say congratulations on first-time fatherhood, bro. I think that's really dope. I can see by the bags in your eyes that you've gotten zero sleep.
Sleep deprivation is real. Everybody out there.
But hopefully everything's going smooth, bro. But again, congrats.
Thank you.
Yeah. JV, how you feeling?
Man, I'm doing great. You know, I'm over here knocking people over like I'm Derrick Henry and they Josh Norman. So, you know, life is good. Life is good. You know how that works, you know.
The game last night was a little wild. I didn't get to watch all of it because I was driving. But I did get to see Derrick Henry put somebody on their ass.
It was crazy. It was incredible. It wasn't as incredible as Khalil Mack putting Tristan Wirfs on his ass, but it was close.
It was close. It was up there. I agree. It was definitely
the next level.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But today we're going to talk about our picks that we made before the season. Right? We had a couple picks that we had for breakout, NFC favorites, AFC favorites, and so on. Some of our picks panned out. Some of them not so much. It was just a checkup. Yeah, it's just a checkup to see how we're doing on those and see if anybody wants to remove their flags from those hills that they planted them on.
I like the way you worded that.
Yeah, but we'll start with breakout players. The first one. Adam, you made a choice that to me seemed smart in the moment. But at this point, I'm not so sure is a really good pick. Hayden Hurst. You still believe that he's a breakout player?
At this point in time, I don't think anybody on the Atlanta Falcons can be looked at in any sort of positive light, with the exception of potentially Calvin Ridley. In terms of what Hayden Hurst has gotten in like target share, targets, reception so far, it's not terrible. It's not anywhere near the potential that I saw going into the season, but I don't think anybody saw the Atlanta Falcons offense being as dysfunctional as it has been. We've seen Julio Jones deal with injury in the past, but an inability to get the ball down the field, I think has kind of shocked the world. I don't think anybody was ready for that offense to be as bad as it has. I think there were a lot of questions about the defense coming into this year. We obviously saw Jekyll and Hyde in the first and second half of last year. But the one constant was always their offense. And the fact that it's broken down as bad as it has this year, I don't think anybody saw it coming. Now, that being said, Hayden Hurst is still third on the team in targets. Obviously, Calvin Ridley is far and away number one. Russell Gage is two. But Hayden Hurst has still played the second most snaps on the team. So I think the potential to really salvage the season and still have a good breakout year is there. It's going to be interesting to see what Raheem Morris does with this offense post-win era. So I'm not giving up on the Hayden Hurst pick yet. But obviously, to this point in the season, it is far from panned out.
This man's averaging 3 catches a game. Fuck out of here.
It's so bad.
It's
so
ugly.
bad.
Matt Ryan is force-feeding Calvin Ridley the ball.
I mean, he sees him as his only reliable target. You would think you'd see this huge athletic specimen at tight end, bigger than Austin Hooper, if I'm not mistaken, and you'd want to target that guy, but it hasn't panned out that way.
And it just may be an issue where he just hasn't picked up on the offense yet. They haven't, that connection hasn't gelled yet. There was no offseason. So obviously switching teams, you're going to a new offense. You have to sync up with a new quarterback. So it may just be an issue where he's behind the curve, as are a lot of players coming into this year. So I'm not giving up on the pick yet, but it has not looked good so far.
Yeah. Well, I'm thoroughly pissed off at the pick. Let me tell you why. Because I drafted him on my fantasy football team, right? Kind of based on Adam and your knowledge of sports and shit. Let me trust my guy Adam. That's my starting tight end. I've been disappointed every single week. So no, it's a dumbass pick. I'm pissed.
Sean, I'm in the same boat as you. I had a league where I drafted both him and Tyler Higbee.
Jesus
which
Christ.
was my breakout pick. And I've already cut Hayden Hurst from my fantasy team. Tyler Higbee's next.
That's not good.
I don't know what happened. It essentially, there is a tight end breaking out essentially every other week on the Rams, but it just hasn't been Higbee. It's been Gerald Everett, which I can take some solace in that. It does seem like at least they are targeting the tight end, but they've gone back to using 11 personnel more exclusively than they did the end of last year. So
I don't know if they're targeting the tight end like that either, though, because so Higbee's the 26th most targeted tight end in the league. 26th.
That's true. But Gerald Everett's getting those targets that Higbee was getting.
It just seemed last year that they were really riding Higbee down the stretch, and they're making a concerted effort to get Everett reintegrated into that offense.
Yeah, they're giving him handoffs.
Right.
They're target. I think he has more targets right now than Higbee does. In the last 2 games, he's had 4 and 1. This is gross. It's gross just to look at. Man.
Yeah, bro. Your boy's also averaging 3 catches a game. Same as Hayden Hurst.
He had a 3 touchdown game. So
hey, at least
those are the only touchdowns all season. Whereas in that one game,
I know.
At least our breakout players didn't get benched.
That is true.
True.
Let's bring it to Sean since you sit here talking your good shit. Let's talk about Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, let's talk about him.
You remember before his career started, he wanted to be called Mitchell, not Mitch.
Yeah.
God, that's great.
Yeah, so now I call him Michael at this point. He's just Michael.
Oh, wow.
Michael. You know what I'm saying? I don't even call him by his real name at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, my God.
All right. Let me be transparent with everybody that's listening. I selfishly chose Mitch Trubisky as my breakout player because as a Bears fan, like I needed to believe. Right? I needed to believe that he was going to take that next step so the Bears could be relevant once again. And we haven't seen that from the quarterback position in my entire life. Right. Jay Cutler is the best quarterback I've ever seen in my life wear a Bears uniform. That's embarrassing. I didn't get the luxury of going from Favre to Rodgers. I didn't get to see Manning to Luck, Brady for 20 years, drafting of Mahomes, drafting of Jackson. So with the number 2 overall pick, I was like, all right, let me give this man a shot. And it was a stupid pick. It was a dumbass decision, but it's a hill I'm still going to die on because Nick Foles, while he's been more consistent with this offense, he hasn't been a superstar slinging the ball around. He also doesn't stay healthy either. And so I predict that Mitch Trubisky will see the field again for multiple games before the season's over with. And we'll see what he's got, man. But yeah, now that was a dumbass pick. Yeah,
so you think he's coming back? Okay.
If you look at the 2 Bears quarterbacks, Foles gives you a higher floor, but Trubisky potentially gives you a higher ceiling. With the Bears, the strength of the Bears being their defense, wouldn't you rather have the higher floor for the rest of the year than a higher ceiling?
I mean, yeah, but let's not act like the games that Nick Foles has played in, he's fucking been a world beater. So
he hasn't.
Right. But yes, the offense is more under control.
He could be a Tom Brady circa 2001 era type of game manager because Tom Brady in 2001, you can go back and look at those stats. He was not great. He was just okay, and he rode that defense to a championship.
Wait, so wasn't that his second year in the league or his first year starting in the league?
It was his third year and his second year starting.
I don't like the comparison.
You don't like the comparison?
It really comes down to, do you want somebody that's going to win you games or do you want somebody that's not going to lose you games?
Exactly.
That's kind of
what it really
Mitch Trubisky was 2-0 when he got
Nick
benched.
Foles most likely will not lose you games.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it comes down to.
Wait, but again,
Trubisky
was 2-0 when he got benched. Yeah, he didn't look great against the Falcons during a couple of deep passes, but they also
Sean, we're not gonna do this because you gave me good big shit in the last episode for defending Mitch. We're not finna do this, bro. You don't believe this shit.
He's such a good BSer, though.
I want to bring that shit, bro.
Like, if you don't know, Sean, you'll be sitting here listening to this podcast like, dang, he got some really good points there. Like, Mr. Trubisky just needed the chance. No, Mr. Trubisky had all the chances. That's why he's on the bench. I just think that he needs to find a better team. And I've said this many, many times before. Mr. Trubisky would be great if you put him in a smaller market, a team that didn't have a lot of expectations for him to be able to grow. You drafted him higher than Patrick Mahomes. You drafted him higher than what's his name, Lamar over there in
Lamar
Baltimore.
Jackson. Jesus
Sorry. You draft him higher than those two guys, and you see how elite they are and everything. And then you're in a big market like Chicago, and like Sean said, Bears fans have been wanting a quarterback like how the Green Bay Packers had great quarterbacks for all these thousands of years. Bears fans wanted that, and Mr. Trubisky was never that. So it's just stop it, Sean. Mr. Trubisky is garbage in Chicago, but if he goes to another team, it'll be perfect.
Wait, weren't those two different drafts? Or am I tripping right now?
No,
he was a part of those drafts.
Deshaun Watson. No.
Deshaun Watson was probably what he was thinking.
Right, yeah, Deshaun Watson, not Lamar Jackson.
My bad. I meant to say Deshaun. I'm so sorry. I'm looking at Lamar. I apologize.
Hell, even if we had a chance to, again, bro, we haven't been able to draft a quarterback well either. So, yeah, as a diehard Bears fan, I hope that the guy we drafted high was going to pan out.
Fair enough.
But we'll look at this in a few more weeks.
Yeah, but let's talk about the actual breakout player who's been the closest to accurate with JVs.
That's
with
me.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy. Look out, Teddy. Hey, Teddy Bridgewater has been doing this thing, completing 130.
That was weird.
It was.
That was a reference from an Instagram video, but anyway. Teddy Bridgewater, 130 for completions out of 178 attempts, 6 touchdowns on the season with only 3 interceptions. And I say with only 3 interceptions as if that's a bad thing. But listen, I like the trajectory of his stats, guys. If you look back in 2014, right? Teddy Bridgewater completed 259 passes for 402 attempts.
Why are we going that far back?
Why are you going 7 seasons ago?
Like, Jesus Christ.
Every year, Teddy Bridgewater completion percentage has increased minus the injury. In 14, it was 64.4%. In 15, it was 65.3%. Recent years, now it's 73.0%. And when he played those few games in New Orleans, it was 67.9%. So what I'm noticing is that Teddy Bridgewater is becoming a little more accurate. And I think overall his numbers are going to be great. And the Carolina Panthers, again, one of those teams that nobody expected to be really good this year. I mean, we didn't expect again, it's not like we expect the Panthers to win the NFC South or anything like that.
They're my Super Bowl.
They're tied for first right now. So
3-0 without Christian McCaffrey.
That's the thing. That's the thing that gets me right now is that they are 3-0 without him,
which is kind of crazy.
And if you look at those last 3 games, Mike Davis has been amazing, but Teddy Bridgewater has been more consistent, has been getting more touchdowns. He's even been running, which is something that who would have thought when he destroyed his ACL all those years ago that he even get back to running the ball.
Yeah.
Richard Sherman said that on a podcast that he attributes a lot of that to the Panthers being less predictable since CMC is out.
And that's probably true because a lot of times you just game plan against Christian McCaffrey getting the ball 30 times.
Because even in Cam's even when Cam was there, when they drafted CMC, like they tried to reinvent their entire offense where everything was going to go through CMC. That was like the plan for the Panthers. And so when he went down with his injuries, you're right. You don't know what the Panthers are going to throw at you. So it's kind of like one of those things where I like the fact that the Panthers can continue to grow as this young team again with not that many expectations. And then all this does is just continue to build Teddy Bridgewater's confidence. And the more his confidence get there, the more his accuracy continues to increase. I'm not saying that the Panthers are going to be a threat next year or the year after, but I am saying that Teddy Bridgewater is going to really, truly solidify himself. So that's why I was smart by picking him as my breakout player.
Well, I'll give you some props, bro. I had asked you specifically before the season started, would he be in the top 10 in QBR, right? Yeah. And you said yes. And as of right now, he's 10th. So it's still early in the season.
There you go.
But right now, he's in the top 10 in QBR. So good job with that.
I know
he's in the league in passing yards, barely, but
he's a barely.
I don't appreciate this slander, but okay.
But early props.
Adam, how do you feel about his pick?
I think it's been a pleasant surprise. I mean, it wasn't a terrible pick. I think the person that's really not getting any credit here is Matt Rule. I mean, there was so much backlash when they brought him in as the head coach. The fact that you lose CMC and then you go on this, 3-game winning streak without him, they've developed a solid game plan to play to his strength. I think nobody expected Robbie Anderson to be any kind of an underneath receiver, but if you look, he's evolving into a much more complete receiver than I think anybody really ever expected him to be. Now, I don't think that's sustainable. I mean, he's very, very wiry. He's 165 pounds, something.
Yeah, he's a
I don't
tiny
think
guy.
he's going to be able to hold up, but I mean, I think a lot of credit has to go to that coaching staff for developing a game plan that plays to Teddy's strengths and plays to offense strengths. And I think they've been able, so far at least, to hide a lot of their defensive deficiencies. They're still not a good defensive team. Their front seven is they play very poorly against the run. So how this holds up has yet to be seen. But I think so far, JV's looking real good. Teddy is his breakout player.
Yeah, it's all coming up JV in that one.
Oh, thanks.
Speaking of the Panthers,
yeah,
let's talk about NFC sleepers, because it seems like a lot of us kind of did well on our sleeper picks in NFC, and one of us didn't do so well. So I'll actually tie these two in. You have the Panthers, who Sean picked as his NFC sleeper, and you have a team in the same division that Adam picked in the Atlanta Falcons, and they're going in two different directions right now.
So I'm not gonna spend a lot of time on the Panthers anymore, because we just kind of did that, and Adam kind of made a lot of the points that I was gonna make about why the Panthers were doing well. So now it's time to slander Adam's ass for his Falcons pick that hasn't won a damn game yet.
Wait, can I defend Adam real quick? I would say on paper, wait, real quick.
How can you defend me?
I'll explain. On paper, prior to the season starting, on paper, the Atlanta Falcons look really good. Nobody.
No, sir. I said they can go either 5-11 or 11-5, and it wouldn't shock me either way.
Really? Because I'm about to say nobody. I know I didn't expect somebody who was covering the NFC South at one point.
Because you don't know anything about sports.
Maybe that's what it is. But I never expected the Atlanta Falcons to go 0-4 and blow all of those leads in the fourth quarter like that. I mean, come on. I did not expect that.
I don't think anybody expected that.
I mean, come on.
Adam, care to defend your pick in any way?
What's wrong with Atlanta? Tell us, Adam.
What's there really to defend? They've been miserable. I really believed by the end of last year they had figured some things out. They brought a lot of their key pieces back on both sides of the ball. And their momentum from the end of last year did not carry over into this year. Now, they lost Tack McKinley again. They lost Keanu Neal again. So they obviously lost one of the best receivers in football in Julio Jones. He hasn't been healthy basically since week 1. But they carried absolutely zero momentum from last year. And it seemed like they were really fighting to save Dan Quinn's job in the second half of last year. And I don't know what happened to that ferocity, because they have just rolled over and they've played terrible mistakes. We all saw that collapse against the Bears, the horrific collapse against the Cowboys, who really should have 0 wins at this point in time in the season. But they've made an insane amount of boneheaded mistakes. I mean, they really should probably have 2 or 3 wins at this point in the season, if not for some epic collapses, which is really just become their bugaboo at this point. But there's really just no way to defend that at this point.
Should they tank for Trevor at this point and get rid of Matt Ryan or bench Matt Ryan?
I wouldn't bench Matt Ryan, because they really don't have anybody that they're grooming behind him. You know, that's something, if you look back over the years, they haven't invested anything in the backup quarterback. I believe at one point they had Matt Schaub, who led the world in pick sixes. But I don't think as bad as they could possibly think they would ever be as bad as the New York Jets. So I don't think it's even possible to think that bad. I think the curious thing at this point is, if Julio gets back on the field, does he become a trade candidate? Is anybody willing to absorb part of that contract to bring a player of Julio's caliber in, or are the injuries just starting to pile up at this point?
I wouldn't if I was a GM. That's how I'd look at it, only because of his injury and his advanced age. He's not going to be worth that contract in a year. And that's sad to say, because Julio's been so great for nearly a decade. And
yeah, he's been great forever.
Now it's just seemed like he's going to fall off a cliff the same way AJ Green's falling off a cliff. Really, they were taken in the same draft, and people always attributed AJ Green as the injury-prone player. Even though I think Julio's had more injuries, and they're both injured at the same time now. It's insane. Let's talk about
Adam, I'm sorry, real quick. Adam, you gave Falcons fans hopes before the season started, right? Anyone that were listening, that the Falcons would be solid, right? Can you look at the camera and give Falcons fans any hope that there's a chance that they can turn this shit around.
0-5.
No, there's no hope for Falcons.
There is no hope.
Oh.
There is no hope.
Okay, you heard it here first.
Hope.
Breaking
No hope.
news.
All right, let's talk about another sleeper in the Chicago Bears, who
Hey.
Sean also chose as his NFC North pick. But JV chose him as his NFC sleeper because Sean didn't have the heart to choose his own team.
He didn't have the confidence to sit there and choose the second best team in the NFC North. You know, we talked about the Bears just moments ago with them benching Mr. Trubisky. I think it's just so great how great the Bears defense is, and I think that's something that's going to really just continue carrying them throughout this season. I'm just looking ahead, and we talked about this in the last episode. I'm just a little concerned for Bears fans, and even myself as a new Bears fan. What is going to happen?
Oh my God! So we're just gonna lie. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about what the future is going to look like because I was listening to this podcast and the guy basically broke down the Bears. He said, hey, they're good enough where they're not going to get like this top pick. But they're not bad.
Don't talk about the future. Don't talk about the future right now. We're talking about this season.
Well, yeah, this season right here, we already know that the Bears are going – I think that the Bears are going to remain in the second place. Only way I can see the Bears winning the NFC North is if Green Bay sustain an injury that's just too detrimental to their success. Even as great as the Bears' defense is, I still will put my money on Aaron Rodgers any day of the week. But
wait, so are they not your sleeper pick anymore on the NFC?
No, they're still my sleeper pick. They're my sleeper pick to come up second to Green Bay, but they're not going to win the NFC.
Jesus Christ.
No. They're not going to win. Look at I know this sounds confusing to people.
Yeah, I'm confused at his thought process. It doesn't make sense to me. If we're talking in terms of sleeper, so a sleeper pick means a team that you think can go to the Super Bowl, but you just shit on them by saying that they're not going to get past the Packers at any point in time.
You just felt the need to talk about them.
Yeah, I had to pick Bears because this is how Chicago. You as a Bears fan wouldn't even die on this hill.
You should have. You should have planted your flag right there.
We're good.
I was forced to pick the Chicago. What do we look like being high Chicago and nobody picked a Chicago team? That's not even right.
That would be crazy. You did choose them for the North, but matter of fact, why don't we roll that into this? Because JV, you also chose the Vikings as your North pick, though.
Okay, because
which is a weird thing.
Roster.
And the same thing that I said was a problem
at the time. Okay,
that's been a problem.
I'm speaking. I'm about to be like Kamala Harris.
Go ahead.
At the time, I thought that the Minnesota Vikings had the most complete roster. At the time, I did. I felt like Aaron Rodgers was great, but I didn't know who he was going to be throwing the ball to. I felt like the Chicago Bears, as always, were going to have a great defense, but we didn't know what their stability was going to be like at quarterback. So I felt like your most complete team in the NFC North, because the Lions don't exist. I thought the most complete team in the NFC North at the time was going to be the Minnesota Vikings. And clearly, I was not just wrong, I was all wrong.
So what went wrong for the Vikings?
What went right for the Vikings would be the best question. Again, what'd you say? Adam, I didn't hear you.
Dalvin Cook. He's about the only thing that's gone right for the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson on occasion.
Yeah. They found a second receiver, but those defensive deficiencies are just way too much to ignore.
And I didn't, see that comment. So
even though I said it literally on the episode.
You did. I'm not gonna. I just again at the time, and it's funny now because at the time when you look at the NFC North as a whole, I didn't really know how successful Green Bay could be with just Aaron Rodgers. I didn't understand how.
But it's not just Aaron Rodgers. That's the problem. It's not just Aaron Rodgers. It's Aaron Jones. It's Zadarius Smith. It's that amazing offensive line. The things that the Vikings don't have.
Okay.
A cover corner. Speaking of Green Bay, both me and Adam were the smart ones. We picked Green Bay for our NFC North picks. Adam, take your victory lap. Even though it's only week 5.
It's only week 5.
It's relax.
Did we travel back into 2011 because Aaron Rodgers is looking like the 2011 Aaron Rodgers this year? He has just been on. I don't know if it has to do with the drafting of Jordan Love. Maybe it's his personal life. Broke up with Danica Patrick. He's refocused on football. But the fact that they've scored 37 points or more in every single game this year, despite JV and Sean, not having a quote unquote top receiver outside of Devontae Adams, he's making all these other receivers look great. And that's what quarterbacks do. At the end of the day, like Aaron and I spoke about podcast, great quarterbacks are the difference makers. And Aaron Rodgers is head and shoulders above every other quarterback in this division, and the record reflects it.
Facts.
There's an episode, Aaron, where you had mentioned about Aaron Rodgers playing with a chip on his shoulder, right?
Yep.
And you said that Green Bay was basically saying, fuck you, Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's reversed.
I said he was probably going to end up saying fuck you to Green Bay. He is absolutely out there slinging a rock. We're talking about Big Bob Tonyan out here catching touchdown passes every week. What is happening? He hasn't had the weapons, and I don't think. You said what?
Baby Kittle.
Oh yeah, facts. They call him Baby Kittle. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, MVS we know is not a number one receiver, and we saw that as soon as Allen Lazard left that he couldn't handle those number one receiver role. But it's been amazing to see Aaron Rodgers basically piecemeal together a receiving core that can get things done.
It's cool. They got their first loss coming up this week when they play Tom Brady and the Bucs.
No.
I'm calling it now.
No.
Okay. Since you want to talk about Tampa Bay, both you and JV chose Tampa as your NFC favorites.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You still stand by that?
I do. I can I go first?
You just said that the Packers were your favorite. JV, can you please pick a side and stay on it?
No. That's not how I operate. Okay, if you know me, I'm all over the place. I still have Tampa Bay as my NFC favorite because as you got everything that you all just said about Aaron Rodgers, the same could be said about Tom Brady. The only difference is that his receiver is just terrible outside of Mike Evans, but he's dealing with some injuries. I just feel like, again, as this young team continue to get to know their quarterback and how elite that he is, and once he know what down it is, third or fourth down, I feel like Tom Brady can lead his team and do very well. And again, when you look at the NFC South, we thought that the New Orleans Saints were going to just run away with it, highway robbery, but that's not even happening. Well, I'm just saying, like, a lot of us kind of thought, like, okay, to get through the NFC South, you got to go through New Orleans, but it's not looking like New Orleans is the superior team, is what I'm really trying to say. So
but they're missing their top weapon too.
They are, and I get that. But what I'm saying is that I still think that in the end of the day, when you talk about those last 6 games of the season, I still got my money on somebody like Tom Brady who can really turn this thing around for the Tampa Bay, get you a nice little wild card position, and you just never know when it's playoff football what's going to happen.
I need them to stay healthy, number one, right? They're dealing with shit and injuries at the receiver position specifically, but also need them to be more disciplined, right? So they lead the league, or they're among the league leaders in penalties. They're among the league leaders in drop passes, right? And that's not something that Tom Brady is used to at all. So this team right now, it lacks discipline on top of them not being as healthy as they can be, but they're still tied for first in the NFC South. So I'll take it 5 games in.
I can understand
but
that.
But the doesn't change its stripes. I mean, Mike Evans is every year is among the league leaders in drop passes, basically leads the league every year in OPI. Like those kind of things don't change. Like you have to be able to find ways to overcome that.
It should change though with Tom Brady in the building.
I don't think so.
I don't know about that, Sean.
It's
because when you talk about
here comes Mr. Flip Flop.
No, I was just going to say when you talk about, I could be a politician the way I'm all over the place. When you talk about discipline, though, then I'm kind of looking at coaching as well. You know what I'm saying? If you can't drive the ball if your team is always getting false starts and that kind of a thing, right? Like you can't drive the ball. You can't stop the offense on the other side if your team is always getting a pass interference. So I'm looking at it from this point of view that you don't have Belichick, as your coach. So that discipline that Tom Brady is used to is not going to be there. So if anybody is going to have to overcome that, kind of like Adam said, you're just going to have to kind of play with that and overcome that. That's going to be Tom Brady. He's going to be the one that's going to have to understand that, look, the team around you is not going to be as disciplined as maybe it was when you were back in New England when that was something that was stressed.
Facts.
Yeah, I agree. But New Orleans is also a team that's been penalty prone as well. That was my pick. And I still believe that they're better than Tampa, even though they don't have their full array of weapons on offense. Drew Brees seems to be regressing more in his arm strength than he looked the last 2 or 3 years. But they still have an elite coach. They still have elite weapons on offense. Their defense is struggling right now. I believe they're 20th in the league in total defense. But that's something that can continue, 26th in the league. That's something that can continue to get better as the season goes on.
Boy, that's the most pathetic cape-up attempt for a team I've ever fucking heard. Holy shit, that was horrible.
They're still tied for first place.
Can somebody explain what's wrong with Marshawn Lattimore?
He's not very good.
He can't cover anything so far this year.
Yeah, I think the offseason hurt their defense more than it hurt anything else on that team. Like, their defense seems to be struggling mightily. You saw it in the Raiders game when they couldn't cover Darren Waller no matter who they put on him. And you saw it come up in that damn Chargers game when Mike Williams basically won a jump ball right over Marshawn Lattimore like he was a child. It was like a child trying to guard a grown man.
Well, maybe things will get better for the Saints. I saw yesterday ESPN reported that they're thinking about moving up to Baton Rouge to have fans in the game since the city of New Orleans is still shut down. So they're thinking about hosting some of their games at Tiger Stadium where LSU plays. So maybe if they got some fans in the background, maybe that'll help them out.
I think that brings up a really good. I think that brings up a really good point too. Like how much is not having a full crowd at the Superdome actually hurting the Saints? And that was something about in the original podcast. It's not hurting the Seahawks, but it is killing the Saints right now.
Speaking of Seahawks, they seem to just get through with no problem because the 12th man has been like a huge thing for them for a long time. But for the Saints, you saw it in the Packers game. You usually can't hard count anybody hard count the Saints if you're anybody in this Superdome. And Aaron Rodgers was able to get 3 offsides penalties in a game where he was able to hard count because of the lack of crowd noise.
Adam, you brought up a really great point, and that's something that maybe somebody should kind of like do a story about because like I've covered many games in the Superdome, and it is like insanely loud. So I can only imagine Drew Brees sitting there like trying to command this offense, and it's just like quiet. Like there's nobody there making any kind of sound other than maybe whatever little fake sound that they're pumping in, which you already know that doesn't even sound authentic. So I wonder, I bet you're right about that. I really wonder how that impacts, them.
And you have to wonder how much it actually affects play calling. Like, and I think a perfect example of that is the Minnesota-Seattle game on Sunday night when Minnesota chose to go for it on 4th and inches. Does anybody here think they actually run that play if Seattle's 12th man is full intact?
Right.
I bet you they kick that field goal there instead of trying to get them to jump off and actually run.
And maybe that's another win for Minnesota. But the lack of crowd noise actually helped out Seattle.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But speaking of Seattle, Adam, you chose Seattle as your NFC favorite. You still believe in that pick?
What a hell of a pick, I'm not going to lie.
It is great.
I got 3 words, everybody here. Russ Cook.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
MVP right now, for sure. Holy
shit. If it wasn't for Aaron Rodgers doing what he's doing, is there a more favored MVP candidate right now than Russell Wilson?
Absolutely not.
They finally let him
week
do what
in and week out. He finds a way to win the game. And we just saw it on full display Sunday night against Minnesota. I think we're seeing a true evolution of DK Metcalf as a potential one receiver right here to go along with Tyler Lockett, to go along with David Moore, to go along with Greg Olsen, who's actually still relevant in an offense. You get Will Dissly back. You got Carson. You got Carson playing really well. You got an offensive line that's actually protecting Russell Wilson. You don't see him under the kind that he's been.
Yeah, that's true, man. That's been an amazing team to watch. I love seeing the deep balls to DK Metcalf.
They have a ton of holes on defense. Their defense has looked terrible. But you haven't had a healthy Jamal Adams for a good chunk of this year. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes back, what kind of impact, once that unit actually gels more together. You got Adams in the secondary. You got Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright manning the linebacker spots. Like I think the defense can only go up from there. They still have some playmakers on the defensive side. I don't think they're anywhere near as bad as they've been playing. But in the meantime, if you got Wilson slinging it all over the yard and they're winning every game, that buys the defense some time to really figure it out. So I'm doubling down on that Seahawks pick.
And that was going to be my thing too, right? Even if the defense never gets it together, I think that you could win a shootout with this offense.
That's true. You can. I'm trying to look to see when the Seahawks play the Rams. This is because I'm looking forward to the Rams versus Seahawks game. And they got the Niners, Bears, and Dolphins next. I think the Bears lose that game to Seattle. I like what I've been seeing from Seattle, man. And
they play the Rams on the 15th of November.
Yeah, November 15th. But you hear that? Can you hear that?
What are you beating right now, bro?
Give him a round of applause for his pick of the Seahawks.
My Atlanta sleeper.
Yeah, it counteracts that awful
It balances
pick.
out. It balances out.
Yeah.
But no, it doesn't.
No credit.
No
credit.
That's the way it works in math, right? A negative plus a positive, it equals out. Maybe not.
There you go.
All right.
But let's do a quick roundabout on the AFC.
Well, you said the Bears play the Seahawks this season, Aaron? No, they don't.
Am I like? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the Rams. I'm looking at the different schedules.
Okay.
My bad. What was I gonna say? Let's switch over to the AFC actually, because I see 2 people pick the Chiefs and 2 people pick the Ravens. We don't have to spend too much time on those. Chiefs look good. Ravens look good. Aside from that game against the Chiefs.
Can we talk about who we think the third team might be?
Let's talk about that, because right now I'm looking at who we have as sleepers aside from Adam's pick. All 3 of our picks. I was trying to help him save face, man. He had 2 bad sleeper picks.
No,
but all three of our teams.
I called a deep sleeper with that pick, and I prefaced it with a healthy Von Miller, and of course, 2 days later, he's down for the year. Right, and then Portland Sutton follows, and then Drew Lock gets hurt. So
it is what it is. No one's riding with Brett Rippon.
Okay, no problem.
But let's talk about it. Who do you think is that third team? Because all 3 of our picks for AFC sleeper could lay claim to that in Tennessee, Buffalo, Cleveland, and you could throw Pittsburgh into the mix too.
I'm in love with Pittsburgh, bro.
Me too.
That's
Can I change my sleeper?
Jesus, you already flipping off your sleeper that's undefeated?
If I have to own my Broncos sleeper pick, you don't get to change yours.
Oh, that sucks. Okay.
So what I want to ask Adam though is between I picked JD, you picked the Titans, I picked the Bills, and Aaron, you picked the Browns, right?
Yep.
Of those 3 teams, Adam, I want to ask you specifically, who do you think is that third team in the AFC?
Health dependent, can it not be the Steelers? I mean, look at the difference last year with Ben Roethlisberger back under center versus the Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges combination of last year. I mean, they have a lot of scary weapons on that offense, especially if Deontay Johnson can come back healthy. You got Juju, you have Chase Claypool coming out as just a beast last week. I think you're just going to see more of that.
Yes.
They draft receivers like they better than any other franchise I've ever seen.
Yeah. Patriots can use some of that mojo.
Can we talk about Chase Claypool for a second?
What do you want to say about Chase Claypool?
I just want to say.
I hope it's about his football acumen.
Okay, I just want to say, you talk about 7 receptions, 11 targets, 3 touchdowns, and 4 touchdowns. In one game. That guy is a GOAT. And I was watching that game against the Eagles.
Did you call him a GOAT?
I mean, for now, I'm saying as a young up and coming player.
Oh my God, that's not what a GOAT means.
I know. I mean, come on, y'all say LeBron is the GOAT, but we keep it moving. The point that I'm making is that he is amazing. He's just star-studded, and I'm saying.
Aaron, go ahead.
You just mute him. But no, yeah, I would also say.
He's still going.
Of course he is.
Okay.
I would also say the Steelers are probably that third team. That defense is amazing, and that offense is capable. I'm not going to say the offense is like world beating, but they are definitely capable. If I had to choose between the 3 teams that we chose, I'd still say Cleveland.
They look damn good on offense.
They do. They look really good. I agree with that.
Can you really trust Baker though?
I mean, that's fine if you don't want to trust Baker, but I trust Kevin Stefanski. I think that's where I'm placing my trust. It's not in the quarterback. It's in the play caller.
We play in a quarterback league.
I mean, that's cool.
And at some point,
hey, but we saw Jared Goff.
And he makes that big play.
We saw Jared Goff play with a good signal caller. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo play with a good signal caller. You don't need to have the quarterback be this world beater. You just need the
Also,
scheme.
Adam, you put your faith in Drew Lock, so I don't want to hear that shit. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah, you just need a play caller that can scheme
You
people.
put your
open,
faith in Mitch Trubisky.
All right, I admit my fault.
That's true.
You did do that.
That's true.
Give me Drew Lock over Mitch Trubisky any day of the week.
But you got to say this, though. If you're a football fan, you're loving this AFC football right now. This AFC
It's
football, like you say, you really can't go wrong with a lot of teams, whether it's, like you say, whether it's Cleveland, whether it's Pittsburgh, whether it's the Ravens, whether it's the Titans. It's a lot of really good teams in the AFC overall. So
and before the season started, we struggled to find a third team.
We
that
did.
Was for the most part.
We really did.
Not only that, the way the Titans beat the hell out of the Bills last night was crazy. I didn't expect that much of a blowout after the Titans had all that time off. That was wild.
And you know, something that's crazy coming out of Tennessee here, a lot of Titan fans are just kind of saying, like, now the Titans are going to play with this, like, us against the world, right? Because, you know, they had their COVID situation, which was stupid. Did y'all see the video on Twitter last night? I'm sure y'all did.
Us against the world,
Us against the world, right?
How much of last night's game was Russ versus Russ, though? I mean, they had 16 days off, and in a contact sport like football, that has to play a big part.
Yeah.
Well, true, but I mean, one could say too, they could have came off really rusty though. I mean, they had a lot of going on in their organization with all these coronavirus cases. They didn't really know when they were going to play. Then they had kind of got sanctioned a little bit because they had a practice that they weren't supposed to have. So people didn't know what was going to happen as far as like if they were going to have to forfeit a game or if they were going to have a pick pulled or whatever. So it was a lot of turmoil going on. So they could have really came into this game unprepared. But they kind of came into this game very prepared, well rested, as you just mentioned, with this us against the world mentality. And I can see that. I can see them riding on that little bacon down that hill by themselves. But I can see them and the whole Titan fan base kind of riding on that hill. Like, you know, it's us against the world. We COVID positive. It's us against the world. And here they go.
It's such a wild story.
And I don't want to take away too much from their win last night. It was a very impressive win. But how many games do you think the Titans can win with Derrick Henry rushing for 57 yards?
Yeah, that's their offense, and they went away.
They'll win every game if he manhandles people the way he did with Josh Norman. He could have one rush for 1 yard as long as he does that one manhandle.
Right.
They'll find a way to win.
It's just an intimidation factor.
Do they need to invent a new stat for Derrick Henry shoves?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Sean, can you call the NFL?
Derrick Henry
can we use
2,
that video?
Khalil Mack 1.
Yeah, let's get that video. Get that video on the podcast. We need to start the podcast off with that video. Somebody call the NFL and ask them if we can use that.
God.
I got Roger Goodell on speed dial. I got you.
Cool.
There you go. He's not gonna answer though.
He might.
He doesn't know how to answer the call. It's okay.
Oh, cool. You're gonna get us banned. We're not even gonna get a chance to go to a game. Hey, what's going on?
If we ever become professional enough, I'm sorry, Roger.
Right.
As of right now, I don't give a damn. Anyway, let's finish off with our final thoughts. We'll start with you, Adam.
Final thoughts. Falcons, you're terrible. Awful. Let me rephrase that. Zero hope.
Damn.
There's about as much hope for the Falcons turning this around as there is for Mitch being a good quarterback in the NFL.
Wow. That was unnecessary.
That was so unnecessary.
Just a shot.
Somebody
just
took
a shot.
That was unsportsmanlike.
All right, Sean. Sean, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts are, Aaron, I think that if you want to go ahead and hop off that Saints bandwagon, now would be the time, bro. The Green Bay Packers are open for you to go ahead and make them your Super Bowl favorites. But after that pitiful ass attempt to like save face with the Saints pick, now's the time to reverse that shit. Please go ahead.
Seems unnecessary, but I'm always gonna root for the Packers. It's just before the season started, I never believed that they had the weapons that it took to get it done.
And other than that, the Bears are 4-1. All three of you guys can go fuck yourselves. For talking shit about the Bears, we out here. Whole lot of gang shit going down this week against the
They
Panthers.
have to be the worst 4-1 team in the history of the NFL.
But are we 4-1 or are we not?
Go
mean,
for
does
it.
that-
Look,
Does that 4-1 record inspire confidence in you?
I think it
Yes.
does. I mean, Sean walks around with a lot of
just rang.
right. Sean walks around with a lot of pride talking about his 4-1 Bears. My final
Yes,
thought,
sir.
real quick, Aaron. Other
Go
than I need a Jordan Love jersey for the future. My final thought is no, just fun. But no, my final thought is that I'm really, really loving the Pittsburgh Steelers and Chase Claypool, who just show amazing talent against that game against the Eagles. I know I got muted earlier, but I just want to say again.
Like, no, we're not going to do this. Please make it quicker.
I'm done. I was just going to say, when you think about the Pittsburgh Steelers, you think about Juju, you think about Big Ben, but now you think about Mr. Chase Claypool.
But you say, wait, hold up. Maybe I misheard. But you say Steelers, and you think about Big Ben. You say Drew Brees.
I said
And then-
Juju.
Oh,
Juju.
Juju. My bad.
Don't
You
do
said
me.
Juju.
Don't act like I don't. Don't act like I don't know who Juju is.
Anyway, and my final thoughts are the Jets are a very bad franchise. They cut Le'Veon Bell. They took on what I think is $15 million against the cap, and he's going to go somewhere else, and he's probably going to be just as good as he was before because he'll have a better system around him. They need to fire Adam Gase.
Jets and Giants 0-10, baby.
Hey.
I feel bad for the people who live in New York right now. It's so bad.
They got the Bills.
In New York City, should I say.
Well, technically, that is the
New
only team
Jersey.
in New York. Wait,
Yeah, let's go with the New Jersey fans, should I say.
Yeah, that is the only team in New York State, technically. The Buffalo Bills.
You'll never hear anybody from New York City claim anything from Buffalo.
You
No, they
won't.
never will.
They'll rather eat their 0-10 record than claim the Buffalo.
Always.
Always.
Yeah. So anyway, let me take it home. Thank you for joining us on the sports edition of the High Chicago podcast. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at High Chicago 312. It's the best way to find out when new content is ready. Please do not hesitate to write us there or here on YouTube with any suggestions for future topics. Criticism, like JV's bad picks,
What?
Adams bad picks. But go ahead.
I don't
or
appreciate
Adam's
that.
bad picks,
Right.
in either one,
I was gonna
or
say
just let us
Adam.
know, or just let us know how you feel about us, like JV's flip flopping constantly.
I don't appreciate that.
Any feedback is welcome. Also, if you can, leave us a review on your favorite podcast medium. I heard that helps people find us. And until next time, peace.
Peace. Chase Claypool. Excuse me.